love makes me wanna. Makes me wanna. Your love makes me wanna. Makes me wanna. Your love makes me wanna. Makes me wanna. Your love makes me wanna. Makes me wanna.
Hello, 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 and welcome to In the Mix with yours truly, Jeannie Ortega, coming to you from my hometown, New York City. It's my honor to be your host today on TBN Salsa. I want to take this time to thank Matt and Lori Crouch, as well as Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, for giving us another opportunity to boast on our God. With this show, it's my heart to introduce you to people in movies, music, media, and ministry that are doing things for the kingdom of God. The Bible says every good and perfect gift comes from God. But it also says that God has given to each and every one of us a gift to share with each other as good stewards of His amazing grace. So today, I get to introduce you to somebody that's doing just that. I'm really, really hyped today because not only is she a Hollywood actress known for her roles in Freedom Writers, Dexter, ER, etc. She's a motivational speaker, an author, a mother, a wife, a Bronx native, New Yorican, but she's also my good friend, April Hernandez. Welcome.
Hi.
Should I add Castillo or not?
I don't use Lee, but it's okay.
Oh, she don't even use Lee anymore.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
April Hernandez.
Castillo, yes.
Castillo.
I know,
that's
it's
why.
long. I'm a true Puerto Rican.
I was going to say, that's that true.
Very Puerto Rican.
I'm so happy that I get to
know.
sit here and interview. You're like one of my great friends. We've known each other for quite some time now, since Freedom Writers.
10 years.
Oh my gosh.
It's been 10 years, yeah, because Freedom Writers came out 2007, and then we went on tour. And,
Yes, amazing. God is so good.
And how far we've come.
I was going to say, and we're definitely going to share our journey.
Absolutely.
But I want to start in the beginning because some people know you, some people don't. Tell us just a little bit about you from growing up.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up born and raised in the Bronx and had great parents and worked really hard. And I went to Hunter College. Eventually, I found my calling to become an actor by taking an acting class.
But you were doing stand-up comedy.
I started as a stand-up comedian, which for some reason I've never done anything funny on television.
You've never
I'm just like the most dramatic person. And I'm so not dramatic in life. I don't think I am. But I think I'm more funnier than dramatic. And so if you're out there and you want to book me, no, I'm just saying. So it was stand-up comedy, and I had, dreamt of being on SNL. That was like a huge goal, and then I just was like, oh, I don't want to do stand-up comedy anymore. It's intense, it's tough, but I knew I wanted to become an actor.
I don't know how you did it. I'd be afraid of the rejection, or people laugh.
It's funny, because God prepares you for things that you don't really know.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I had to do that, because years later, He knew that I would be speaking in front of crowds. And so I'm able to use that. I have that experience, and getting rejected, I'm like, oh, I already know what that feels like. And so I just go in there, and especially because I speak to youth a lot, you have to be on your feet.
Yeah, and then the youth are just like...
Yes, listen, if you want to know if you're a good speaker or not, speak to youth. They will let you know. They're so honest. Bless them. They're so honest.
So, okay, so stand-up comedy, you become an actress, and then tell us a little bit about that. Introduce us to your Hollywood
So my first job ever, a paid gig, was the Yao Ming commercial that I did with Yogi Berra and Yao Ming, and I just remember just being completely ignorant to the whole process of just going and just being myself, and they were like, well, you just need to say the word yo. I was like, I say that every day of my life.
Amazing New York accent.
It was like, yo, and it just continued from there. I booked Freedom Writers and then television, and so I've done a lot of television. But Freedom Writers is probably what I'm most known for.
Yeah.
Or sometimes people know me for the most random shows.
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
nowhere, like in
yeah.
Texas, in a random place.
Wow.
I'm like, I loved you in Law and Order. I'm like, really?
Yeah, or Persons of Interest.
Or Person of Interest
which,
was
'cause
a
I love
huge
Jim
episode.
Caviezel, so I was
I
like-
do. I worked with Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we can kind of weave in our connection because we actually started on our journey with God together.
We did.
So, I mean, I'd love to hear you talk about just kind of your journey and how that happened
Well,
to coming to the Lord.
I mean, we weren't saved, nowhere
not.
near being saved on that trip and that tour. And it was just amazing because I remember us being in a hotel room and just looking at you and just saying, God is going to use you. And girl, you need to make up your mind. Meanwhile, I'm nowhere near saved. I'm
Sipping, she's like simping.
sipping on some lovely wine. It's from grapes. And so, and just speaking life into you, but I had no idea that God had something for me, but I didn't even know I had the ability to speak life. But I don't know what it was that I saw in you, and you were just looking at me like if I was crazy. I just remember thinking, she
Like, is
thinks
she
I'm crazy.
drunk?
And I mean, I was, I was okay. I wasn't like losing my mind,
No,
but
yeah.
I just knew for sure that he wanted to do something. And then we both accepted Christ. And then we were sent into the desert.
Yes.
The desert of just,
Yes. And at the time, I guess, so we're on tour, and, it's your biggest movie at the time, with Hilary Swank, and you guys are just doing all these red carpet events, and then
going on MTV. We were
Yeah.
going, we did a lot of stuff.
And then I just had a hit single on pop radio, and we're doing all these amazing things to the world, right? And we were totally feeling ourselves, We were like,
was.
out like, And then the Lord starts tugging at our hearts. And it's amazing because I love that I have a friend in the industry that I can relate to in that sense where we're at the top of our fame and then the Lord snatches us out.
Snatch is a good word. Is there anything a bit more violent than that? Because I feel like it was just unfair. Because yes, I don't, at that time for me, I didn't feel like I necessarily was looking for God because I thought I was, put
So you
together.
had it.
I had everything. I had money. I was on my way to fame. And after that, I couldn't book work to save my life. I mean, people were asking me, so what are you doing? And in my head, I would just come up with, I would just be like, nothing, and like want to go home and cry.
Yeah, I know that. I wouldn't even attend Fashion Week because I didn't want anyone to ask me what I was doing.
Yes.
So I love that because here we are at the height of our success, and we'll talk about you with just the fame that you had with Freedom Riders. I mean, the it girl, you know what I mean? That Latina face. At that time, everyone's just like, oh, that's that girl, And then you get saved, and then you can't book work. How do you keep going?
I fought a lot with God. And I think I still do to this day because I'm just a fighter. So
Yeah.
for fighters out there, and I go, it's all your fault. You made me this way. I fought, I fought. And one thing I know for sure is that it'll happen again. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I wouldn't have been married. I definitely know that I wouldn't have my 2 daughters now just because I was so focused on becoming famous. And it wasn't, and at that time it wasn't a really cool thing to be a Latina actress, like this whole Latin movement right now.
Yeah.
That wasn't the thing. There weren't that many actresses, so I was able to stick out. Now there's so many actresses that I feel like I'm new to the industry and people are looking at me like, who are you? And I'm in my head like, hey, I've been here.
Yeah.
But it's okay. Like one of my dear friends, he's on Power, and I said, oh, I haven't been working, and he goes, no, you have. You've been gaining life experiences.
Amen.
So mindset,
Yeah,
right?
it's all about
Experience.
that.
And I said, wow. And he goes, and you're gonna use it. So just don't worry. And so I've had to let that notion go of, God, why hasn't it happened? I had to stop asking that question because I just wasn't getting the answer. So instead of becoming frustrated, I said, okay, well, what else? What other gift do I have? And it's speaking.
So let's pause there and rewind a little bit. Because I love your salvation story. You know, because sometimes you were already in a relationship.
I was in a
And
relationship.
I think it's very popular for women to get saved first and then try to draw in their boyfriend, you know, or whatever. But you have an opposite kind of thing, and I love that.
Yeah, my husband now, Jose Castillo, we were dating at the time, and he actually got saved first. And I was still living in LA. When I eventually came back, I started going to the church that I go to now, Words of Life. And it was a huge culture shock because I'm Puerto Rican. My church is predominantly Dominican. And everyone was really happy all the time, and they wanted to give me hugs. And I was like, this is weird. Like, why are you so happy? You cannot be this happy. And it was just one of those moments of we went to a retreat, and I was able to finally understand what my husband was experiencing. And so we decided to, you know, remain and refrain from, you know, the thing that
Being intimate,
yeah, the things that adults do. I don't know what I can say on the show. And so I want to keep it clean. And so we for literally 6 months we weren't intimate at all. That was the only thing that we can do, right? And so I was like, oh, we need to get married like tomorrow. So we were engaged for my birthday, and then by May we were married. Yeah, I was like, no, we don't have time. Like, we've been together for almost 6 years. We know each
true.
other.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do we need? And it just, you were there for the party, and so it was just, it's been amazing.
And
It
you
really
guys are
has.
beautiful. You have 2 beautiful girls now, and you know, it's amazing to see you just in your element. I know as entertainers, sometimes we feel like if we're not doing the thing that we think we were made to do, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But you and your husband together, you know, you formed a production company. You go out, you're a motivational speaker. You're impacting, you're influencing this generation. And we were talking off camera of how, you know, just how the world is going. And we need people like you out there just speaking life over our kids and over, you know, the generations that come.
Listen, when you are on the front line and not stuck in a church, it's a completely different world. And we are living in such a fast-paced world that if you are not stepping out of your comfort zone and teaching the gospel and Bible in a way that these kids have never seen it before, then you really need to start questioning why you're doing what you're doing. We don't live in the same world we did just 5 years ago.
It's true.
And obviously you can see with the things that are happening in this world, it's like, wow, God, I really see things coming as you have spoken. And so how can I be an impact in this world? And so my biggest ministry is my family, my daughters first. You know, my daughter, Summer Rose, she copies everything that I do, everything. And so it keeps me on my P's and Q's to make sure that I'm loving myself in front of her, even if I don't feel great. But even if I don't feel great, I have that conversation with her. You know what, Summer, Mommy's not feeling too hot. You know, I'm not feeling it. I don't know the answer. And because kids need to understand that it's okay. It's okay if you don't have it together. You know, I know there's so many mothers right now watching, and you're just feeling stressed out, and you're worried about your children, and the whole thing is setting that foundation. I mean, as mothers, we are our children's first teachers. So whatever we're teaching our children, they're going to eventually use. They may throw some away, but if you're planting and you're just doing your job, it will work out. It will work out.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. You know, and you recently came out with a book, and it talks about a time in your life that I didn't know, you know, happened. And I think it's just so empowering because especially as a Latina, I feel like we come across this topic of domestic violence a lot. It's your voice, your choice. And, you know, it's amazing because it's like actress, motivational speaker, author, you know, and it's such a brave thing of you to do, number one, to talk about it, then to even venture into writing about it. So tell us a little bit about Your Voice, Your Choice.
Your Voice, Your Choice is my story of being a survivor of teen dating violence. And it probably was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. People ask me, oh, what was the process? And I go, well, there was a lot of fear, and it took me over 15 years to write the book. I just didn't think my words would matter on paper because I didn't see myself as a professional writer. And then I just had the opportunity and I said, I have to write this. As a speaker, you're supposed to have a book,
You need merch. You need some
yeah,
merch.
and all this stuff. And I said, well, why not just put my entire speech into a book? And so there's resources at the end of the book. There's also questions after every chapter just to get you thinking about yourself. And even if you don't know if you're in a relationship that is abusive, you might be going through something. And so if you can identify it, then in this book, it'll help you identify those things.
Give us some tips, because there might be people watching. And I feel like sometimes, we can take the role of like, oh, well, it's not too bad. Like, when you're in it, you don't know. You think somebody loves you and you're just like, whatever, like, that's it. Like, they love me. And yeah, everybody's, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. What are some signs of that, domestic violence?
I think some of the signs or tactics that are used by the abuser, the perpetrator, one of the things is isolation. So you begin to become isolated from your friends or your family members, and you find yourself not wanting to hang around them because you're too scared to be exposed. So that's a good sign. If you are a parent and you notice that your child, if their grades start going down, and it's probably around at the time that they started dating this person, these are things that you need to look for. Are they quiet? Do they stay in their rooms? Or do they seem down? Do they seem depressed? Now, it may not be abuse, right? I don't want to say that's what it is, but these are the signs, because these are all the things that I did as a teenager that my parents, they just didn't know. And if they probably would have looked in my room a bit more, they would have seen the signs.
Wow.
So don't afraid to invade your child's room. Like my mom would always tell me, I'm not your friend. I'm not your mom. I'm not your friend, I'm your mother.
Yeah.
I'm your mother first. And it's like, I think parents these days, not saying all, but we want to be friends, and I'm not here to do that. I'm here to be your mother.
Yeah.
I'm here to guide you and protect you.
And this world needs that. They need guidance, because if the parents aren't guiding them, you can't just ship your child off to church and expect the church to raise the child. If your parents aren't doing it, then the world is doing it.
Oh, absolutely. My husband always says there's two ways to get an education, in school or the streets.
Wow.
Life will always educate you.
That's very true.
And that's just the sad part about it.
So now, for someone who is in a situation where it's toxic and it's domestic violence or something on its way there, how do you get out? Because I know that's the hardest thing. I grew up in that world as well, as a victim of that, not me being the victim, but a child of a victim. So how does that work?
Well, every case is different. So I can't just say, well, you just pick up your clothes and go, because it's by far the hardest thing to do. The most important thing is knowing that you do have a choice. You do have a choice. And recently I just spoke to a young woman who she's looked at me and said, I don't have a choice. And everything in my body wanted to scream out, yes, you do. And many women, and even men who are abused, and children, they might not feel like they have a choice, but they do. For women, it's just saying to yourself, how much are you willing to take and not take? I think we all have a threshold. I think it all depends on how much, some women are just saying, hey, I'd rather just stay here than not have anyone. And it's also different if you're an immigrant. You don't have papers, and so you're here living under someone. So it becomes sticky. There's shades of gray. Yeah. It's not just black and white. But one, you do have a choice. Two, you can go online. There's so many resources now. It's not like before. And if you go online on some of these resources like loveisrespect.org, or that's like the main one that comes to my mind right now, they are for teen dating violence. You can delete the page. There's no history.
Wow.
So it's these ways, for kids to be able to get out, or for women. But most importantly, we didn't have the internet when I was being abused.
Yeah.
There weren't any resources, and if you did go, people would just put you down. So now it's more accepting.
And thank God for people like you that are using your voice to help. I feel like a lot of times, our minds, the enemy, it'll use the secrecy and hang it over your head. But when it's exposed and it's in the light, it's harder to hide. So when people like you are sharing your testimony, it loses the power that it has over people. So I'm so grateful for that. Okay, so now, speaking, are you writing anymore?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I have a book in my mind that wants to finally come out, and I'm also working on my one-woman show finally.
Ooh, yay.
It's been something, a dream of mine forever, and so.
So that's my question. How do you do it all?
I don't know. Don't ask me about like balance. I don't even know. I mean, I also
That's
have.
okay, but that's real.
Yeah,
because-
like I'm not here like, oh, work balance life. I'm just there like I have no idea how I get it done sometimes, but it's obviously making things a priority and just making sure that I'm still creative and working on putting stuff out there, not just waiting for someone to call me.
Yeah. I want to talk about that a little bit. If you can talk to, I know there's women out there, or there can be men as well, that, you become a parent and you lose yourself in that. And, that's fine. I've been a child product of someone who's invested her total life into raising great children. And me and my siblings are great. But I know sometimes for creatives, like for me, like I'd feel like kill me because I need that outlet.
You have to.
So if you can, if you can communicate with somebody out there that just needs a little nudge to know that, hey, you can be mommy and be amazing, or be daddy and be amazing, and still do what God called you to do.
What scares me sometimes that I just really dislike hearing is when people tell me, oh, once you have kids, that's it, your life is over. I've heard that so many times. And so my husband and I refuse to believe that. We refuse to accept that. It's important for my daughter to look at me and say, oh, mommy is going on an airplane because she's going to work, or if she sees me writing. And so I found a way to just make her included in the things that I do. Or I look at her and I say, wow, she has pretty awesome ideas. Let me tap into her brain. And so using your child, right, because they're the most creative human beings ever.
That's
Children
awesome.
are so creative. I just go, you need to win an Oscar because my daughter can cry and just be completely serious in 5 seconds. I'm like, I'm going to so use that in an audition. And so I've learned to just be like, okay, and if I can't do something at the moment, not feeling resentful, but just saying, okay, right now you need my attention, but just finding the time. If you want to get something done, you will get it done. No matter what is in front of you,
It's true.
you can have $1 and you can make that into $1 million. It's just how bad you want it, the strategies that you have, also the support system. For me, I would not be able to do anything in my mind that wants to just come out without the help of my family. Like right now, my daughter's with my father. And so I'm able to just do what I do because of the family support. So make sure you have a great support system and surrounding yourself with people who dream with you, but also just, nudge you and say, what are you doing about, because talking is great, but doing is better.
So one thing I wanted to talk about, because obviously I follow you on social media, but a lot of people follow you on social media, and you're very vocal about the world that we live in. And I love that because, oh my gosh, don't we live in such a politically correct world? And you and I are not very politically correct. And I tend to avoid the topic sometimes on social media, but you don't. Like, you're really on it. Talk to me a little bit about that and just why you feel the need to share.
I've gotten better with it. My husband he's constantly reminding me that I do have a platform, and the things that I say, people do look at it. And so I do my best to pick my battles. There are times where it's just like any other person, you become so frustrated and you voice an opinion. And so once you put it out into that world, you must expect people to come back with their own opinion. And I'm all for that. As long as it's respect, honor, and dignity, I don't mind it. But it's funny because especially on, Facebook, if I can say that, they'll go back and forth, and then people will start arguing with each other, and you're like, that you completely lost why I wrote this.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning more and more to choose my battles and when to say something and when not to say something.
So even that discipline, because, you know, like, I have people from my parents' generation to, you know, my younger cousins' generation that's on Facebook blasting away.
Yeah.
Just the discipline that it takes. I mean, what do you do as a Christian? Are you like, do you filter it through Christ, or how do you do it?
I mean, sometimes no. Sometimes it's just saying what's on your mind, and whether you like it or not, I'm sorry, I'm not here to please you. And I'm also not going to go with the norm.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to go with because everyone thinks that X, Y, and Z should happen. If I feel a certain way, I go, no, I don't agree with that.
And a lot of times, the culture is against kind of the biblical, you know, ways and things, so it's harder.
I mean, and this whole thing about free speech it's really funny, because the moment that you express yourself and it's not with what everyone else says, then you're seen as this like troll, or
Yeah,
you're
or a
anti this
bigot.
or
Yeah.
bigot, and so I just laugh it off, and then I just delete what I thought I was gonna say. 'Cause,
You're
you
just
know,
like
I
editing.
use the wisdom that the Lord gave me, and I just go delete, 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 and then I go have some tea.
Well, I will say I do enjoy reading I love what you say, because you do, a lot of times you say what I would say, and you do create a safe space for people to talk, and the dialogue, and you know, and it just is what it is, and I pray that God will continue to use you that way, you know. Well, April, I'm so happy that I could even be here with you.
I know, this is insane.
it's
I can't
so
even believe
weird.
this. We're like women. Oh my
I
God, we
know.
like grow up now.
Professional. God is awesome.
Thank
And you
you.
know, just hearing everything that you've said, I know that you've helped to ignite a fire in other people's lives that, you know, have dreams and ambitions and go through that desert season, but then see just God still spring forth wells and little springs. So I'm grateful for what he's going to do. And for you guys out there, listen, like April said, she's using her gifts, her talent. She's not putting it to the side to do what God has called her to do. I know that there's something brewing in every single one of us. And we're Christians. We have life. We have light in us. And this world needs that. So, everyone, make sure you tune in to next time. Make sure you get all of April's resources. And just remember, it is your voice that God has given you. And it's also your choice to do with your life what you choose to do with it. See you later.
Makes me wanna